Hey all, Bree from the No Guilt Mom podcast, and I have got a gift for you this holiday season. If you love the No Guilt Mom podcast, and I mean love the No Guilt Mom podcast, then tell us about it. Leave us a review, and you can be entered to win a No Guilt Mom gift card. All you have to do is leave a review, take a screenshot, and then simply go to noguiltmom.com/review to enter our giveaway for a free No Guilt Mom gift card, simply for telling us what you think about the podcast. It is amazing. But don't delay. Get right on this, as we're going to be giving away that No Guilt Mom gift card on December 21st. So get right on over and visit noguiltmom.com/review.
Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I am your host, Joanne Crone, and I'm joined here by my, get ready for it, prepared co-host, Bree Tucker.
Oh, goodness. You got me on that one. Hello.
Okay, so I chose prepared because you've mapped out our entire time today, because we're actually trying to turn around this podcast episode very, very quickly. We just got off the call with Dr. Sheryl Ziegler, and now we're trying to get this out for you to air when you're listening to it, which is
just a few days later.
Honestly, hopefully.
Yeah. And that's a lot. It's a lot to turn around a podcast that quickly.
It's a lot to turn around a podcast. If you don't know the whole podcast process, we do our interview usually if we have a guest, and then we do our intros and outros probably a week or two later. We try to make those really close to the actual air date.
Because we learned our lesson when we tried to do them really far out, and then an episode aired, and I'm like, ooh, yeah. Current events made that kind of sound weird.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then we send it out to editors, and they edit it, and they send it back to us, and it's a process.
And then there's the artwork too that's involved in this, and then the
artwork and show notes and writing it up and each episode.
Yep.
So she's the prepared producer. Bree produces our podcast. She takes it from start to finish. So yay for Bree!
Oh, thank you. I do worry about my preparedness, but I'm getting much better.
Yeah,
so
I think you're awesome.
I'm getting much better. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So today's podcast, we have our first returning guest.
We do. Oh my goodness. I was so excited that she said okay to coming back. Well, for those who have not already known, Dr. Sheryl Ziegler has written an amazing book, Mommy Burnout, which is 10.
It is episode 10. It is also one of, well, actually, we'll just say it is the most popular episode of the No Guilt Mom podcast so far.
Yes.
So if you have not gone and listened to episode 10, do that.
Yes.
Do that.
Yes, it was a great, great episode. And so we were so excited when we were, kicking around the idea for this episode. Well, the episode being about basically trying to handle the challenging relationships that come up, especially with family over the holidays.
Yeah, because usually there are challenging relationships with family, but 2020 has seemed to bring it to a whole new level.
Yeah, it's an amplified. It's normally at a 3, and this year it's at a 15.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to reach out and get some strategies and some tips, and she has some really, really great ones for us, including what you can say to your kids if you witness someone else doing something that your family doesn't agree with, but how to make it non-elitist and not make that other person that they see embarrassed.
And build that empathy.
Which is very, very important. So Dr. Sheryl Gonzalez Ziegler, affectionately known as Dr. Z by her clients, holds a doctorate of psychology and is a registered play therapist, author of Mommy Burnout, TEDx speaker, podcast host of Dr. Sheryl's Pod Couch, media contributor, consultant, and entrepreneur. Her mission is to create community and have a greater influence on the mental health crisis currently facing the country. And we hope you enjoy our interview with Dr. Sheryl Ziegler.
Hey guys, guess what? I have a secret for you. Joanne's birthday is coming up.
It is. And you know what? I do believe that birthdays should be celebrated an entire week.
Oh, I totally agree with you. We need to celebrate.
Let's do it.
Yay! Awesome. Okay, so starting on Friday, Black Friday, November 27th, we are going to have a week of deals for all of you on the first day of Joanne's birthday.
We are not doing the song.
Oh, come on.
No.
Fine.
Okay, here is what you need to do. Each day, we're giving you exclusive access for 24 hours to one of our No Guilt Mom products, and it'll have a special birthday discount. And We're bringing out courses that are only available a few times a year.
Oh, can we start with the homework courses?
Of course, we could start with the homework courses. It is my birthday, so I can technically do what I want.
You can.
And I think that on my actual birthday, that's when we're going to have the biggest celebration.
Oh, yeah.
So here's what you need to do. To make sure you're in on all the festivities, use the link in our show notes to download the No Guilt Mom Mindset and join our No Guilt Mom community.
And if they're already in the No Guilt Mom community, they're already going to get the email already, right?
Yes, you're totally on the list. So be on the lookout for all of our birthday week celebrations. And let's get on with the show. You want mom life to be easier. That's our goal too. Our mission is to raise more self-sufficient and independent kids, and we're going to have fun doing it. We're going to help you delegate and step back. Each episode will tackle strategies for positive discipline, making our kids more responsible and making our lives better in the process. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom Podcast. Welcome to the podcast. We are so happy to have you with us again.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be a repeat.
Oh my gosh. So I have to tell you though, your episode on Mommy Burnout is our highest downloaded episode so far.
Oh, yay.
Like
Thank
it
you.
is episode 10. It is a need that a lot of moms really need to hear about. And yeah, it's our most popular. So we're
well, that makes me feel good. Thank you.
Yeah. So we really wanted to have you back on today to talk about these really tricky family relationships and the scenarios that all of us are going into coming into the holidays.
Right. Because the holidays are already stressful enough as it is.
Yes.
But when you add in 2020, they take on a whole new life, don't they?
Oh, yes, they do. And everybody's Thanksgiving Day table is going to look, I think, really different this year.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. So in some cases, it might just be your nuclear family. In some cases, you might have, two members, maybe your parents or something, but the crowd isn't going to be as big, which on the one hand could be good, but on the other hand could be more intimate and a little bit more intense with the conversation that is happening.
Right.
Definitely. Especially if you are on two sides of a different issue, especially with all the politics that happened recently and the thoughts on mask wearing and COVID. There is a lot of conflict potential around Thanksgiving this year. And I know like Bree and I have talked in our separate families about like our holiday plans. Like I'm going away, just my family, just my nuclear family. And then Bree has like,
okay, so we're in Arizona. And we're having an outdoor Thanksgiving, but on top of that, we're all sitting at different tables. So, because it's myself and my two sisters, my parents. So, like one family will be at this one table with their masks on, and 6 feet away will be another family at a table with their masks on. At least that's as of right now. This is all open to be changing in the next 4 days because it's taken me a lot just to get to this point where I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do it if we do it this way.
mm-hmm.
Yes. And isn't that funny? I had a friend recently say to me, she was really upset. Like she normally hosts the big Thanksgiving. She's like, I'm not doing it this year. No one's coming. And I just naturally said, well, why don't you think about doing it outside? No. I am not going through all that trouble and who knows what's going to happen. I'm like, okay. So it's just like, I will tell you, just Thanksgiving is a hot topic.
I know, right?
Everything's a hot topic.
Yes. Yeah. It feels like everything is so all this or all that right now. And I just want to not feel so intense about everything every 5 seconds.
Everything. I know.
Right?
I totally agree. Well, we can start getting into tips about what to do.
Yes, because it's particularly if we're very conflict adverse people, acknowledging that rift between us and certain loved ones is hard. So what do you suggest we do if there is that tension?
Yes. So I'm going to talk about this, obviously knowing it's 2020, we're in a pandemic. Everyone's situations are different. So even if this isn't about your Thanksgiving Day table, at some point in the next few months or so, or minutes, you're going to encounter people feeling differently about a lot of things, whether it's straight up politics, the election, like you said, mask wearing, social injustice, police brutality. There is so much going on. But one of the things that I'll say, I actually can really use a real life situation. My mom just came out to help me because I just had the surgery. And so she came out and she, this year, decided she was going to be a Trump supporter. So I was like, okay. And I'm just putting that out there. I am truly an independent. I have voted Republican and Democrat before. This year I voted Democrat. She voted Republican. So I knew it was coming. And I am not conflict averse, but she is attracted to conflict. She likes it. She loves it, actually. Right. So it's like, if you really want to bring it, I'll give it back to you, but I'm not going to initiate it. Right. I'm not looking for it. So I found myself in about 2 seconds getting all riled up, right? So then I had to take a step back. It was almost like I was laughing at myself. So I'm like, you do not have yourself under control. I was just like, you voting for him is like, and I like lost my mind. And then I was like, okay, you got to lose your mind for 2 seconds. It was probably like 2 minutes. And then I did a whole, I'm going to the bathroom, and I composed myself and I was like, you know better. I scolded myself. So what I would say to other people is I'm being honest in that, like, I somehow very quickly got trapped into it myself, where I was like, it was hard because it was during the actual election that she was here, but I knew better. And I should have known to say, hey, like, whether it's Thanksgiving, I know that, there's so much going on. People feel so differently about Thanksgiving, or maybe you're angry at your governor, whatever the situation is. But if we're going to do this, first of all, I don't want to talk about politics, but if we're going to, we're literally putting on like the microwave timer, right? Or get your phone out and put the timer on, right? Mm-hmm. And so like one of the things I would say is number one is, because some people feel like if you can't do conflict with your own family, who can you do conflict with? Or what are you modeling to your kids if you can't even do conflict, right? And so that definitely is a little birdie on my head that's like, I'm not looking for this, but I should model for them that I can engage in difficult conversations. And I have said this to my kids a million times over the last few months. Just because someone has a different viewpoint than me, I might not like their viewpoint, but I still love them.
We're hitting that time of year where my brain gets so overloaded in December that I look for anything to make life easier. And I have to say, Brie, that Green Chef is one of those services.
Yes, Green Chef is there to take away the dreaded, oh my goodness, what are we going to eat for dinner tonight? You can eat clean all holiday long with over 80 weekly meal options each week, featuring things like quick and easy, protein-packed, calorie-smart, or my personal favorite, the keto options.
And you don't have to lose track of healthy eating habits during the holidays, because every Green Chef customer gets a free session with one of their registered dietitians who can walk you through how to make clean eating work for you, which is very cool.
And I have to say that I have been loving their recipes lately. They put things together I have never thought of. This week we're trying the lemon basil caper pork with sauteed cauliflower, bell peppers, almonds, and feta cheese, my favorite. Their recipes make it so easy to support my wellness goals without skipping on flavor.
For Green Chef's best deal of the year, get $250 off with code NGM250 at greenchef.com/NGM250. That's greenchef.com/NGM250. And don't forget to use that code NGM250 to get $250 off.
Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for eating well. Hey, Brie here, and I wanted to share one of my favorite gifts to give during the holiday season, a Storyworth book. It is the most amazing gift ever. Storyworth is an online service that lets you create a special and unique gift of someone's story. I've given Storyworth books to both of my parents, and it has been their favorite gift, hands down. And did I mention it is so easy? Storyworth emailed my parents questions every week that I handpicked from their massive list of questions that they have. All my parents had to do was open their email and answer them. That easy. I asked my dad questions like, did you have any rules that you set for yourself as a parent, which you immediately broke? And he did. I even asked both of my parents, are you more like your mom or your dad? And they shared a lot of really amazing qualities that I didn't know about my grandparents at the time. Then at the end of the year, Storyworth compiles all of their answers, puts them into this gorgeous book that covers everything. My parents love showing us their books, and I personally love getting a chance to read them. With Storyworth, I am giving mean those I love a thoughtful and personal gift from the heart that preserves their memories and stories for years to come. Go to storyworth.com/NGM and save $10 on your first purchase. That's storyworth.com/NGM to save $10 on your first purchase.
I have said that to my kids many, many times because, in their world, I'm in Colorado, right? In their world, they look at somebody who voted for Trump as like, what's wrong with them? How could they? Almost how could it be? Like it's that offensive to them? But they don't understand. They don't understand like the whole, some people, no matter what, are always going to vote party lines. They don't understand that. So I do try to point out to them. We know multiple people in our lives actually that voted for different people, and they're like very, very close to us. We love them. And so I think that's a hard concept for them to grapple. But I'm actively doing it, talking about it often so that they know like this is never going to change my feelings about them as a person, and I have to learn how to split it. So I would say set boundaries. I would say separate the person from the politics. If they're older, everybody knows this, but everyone could use hearing it. You are never going to change someone's mind. You are never, sitting around a Thanksgiving table past the gravy, someone's light bulb is not going to go off and say, you are right. I should.
It's really not going to happen. No.
That's not going to happen.
This gravy really, really opened my eyes.
Yeah,
you're right. That's a very good point.
Right. But when we get heated, sometimes it's about sharing our point, but a lot of times it's about knocking sense into somebody.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to knock sense into them. We are not. We are definitely not.
Trying to prove that you're right. And you really get into that conflict where like, if you're trying to prove that you're right, then no one's going to win the discussion because there's no way that someone will come over to your side. So like thinking that like politics, like we've been taught not to talk politics. We've been taught not to talk religion at family gatherings. So instead of engaging in that conflict, like what do you think of just refusing, like putting a blanket refusal on it, especially at like the holidays?
Yeah. So I actually really thought about this, like trying to be very realistic. And I think that it is another tip to be proactive and say, like, let's say someone is coming over. I am so happy and grateful that we can sit outside, that we can have Thanksgiving together, that we can be together. There are millions of families who do not get to do this. And please, please, let's not talk about anything negative. Let's try to make ourselves stay on the positive. Let us totally all be like drinking the Kool-Aid today. We are all in on, we're so grateful for health. We're so grateful for our healthcare. We are so grateful the kids got to do half a soccer season. We're grateful for the weeks that the kids were into school, whatever. Or say, let's make this holiday season about 2021. What do we want to do when the world is back to a new normal? It's going to be a new normal, right? Yeah. Where do we want to travel? Like this is what keeps our family afloat. We've been talking about Hawaii a lot, like this trip to Hawaii and the beach and who we want to visit and who we miss and just really, really focusing on that. So I think you can do that. And I also had the idea of, I recently wrote an article about like family dinner conversation starters. And so what if like the pass the turkey is also pass the jar, and you have different question strips in there and everybody, whoever draws the question answers it. So if you do that and they're fun and they're not like a hokey, you know your crowd, your family, what they'll get into, I think that could be easily, not an awkward way to make it super fun. And I also thought about bring out the board games. Like, whatever
total
you can
board
do,
games.
Right?
What are your favorite board games to play with your family?
We love apples to apples.
Oh yeah, total apples to apples.
I just discovered that this year.
Yes, we are big apples to apples. We like categories. The kids love charades.
We recently found old school catchphrase.
Ooh.
Like the way you have to actually like hit it, and like the digital one isn't as fun. You need to like hit it so the card turns, and
I like that. We don't have that.
We do charades, and my kids love sorry. And then
I can't take sorry.
And then we have 4 different versions of sorry. I bet you didn't know there were that many.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we have 4. Boy.
And they love this game that I found at a garage sale from back when I was a kid called Payday.
Oh,
I don't even think they make it anymore. It's a game about paying bills.
Wow.
And my kids think it's great.
It's like, I will give you some real life.
Life, yes. We don't have life, but they have it at their dad's and they like playing that one. I'm like, that. So yeah.
I love that suggestion of keeping it positive, bringing out the games, having the question jar come out, and just focusing on all that positivity and what you want from 2021 versus the blah blah of 2020.
The crazy thing is I feel like a lot of these things you would have done, or they would have been first of your forethought in a regular year.
Mm-hmm.
But in this year, we're so focused on the constant stress. I feel like it's constantly, every day, there's something new to stress or have anxiety over, especially as a parent.
Yeah.
And I just totally have forgotten all of these wonderful things you guys are saying right now. Just, of course.
Right? They're just so common. It's funny you should say that because I do a lot of different media segments, and I will tell you every year for probably at least 8 years, I've done the how to handle the family stress the Thanksgiving Day table. It's funny. What's funny about this year actually is that talk about you really want to be with the family that you're with this year. If you are getting together with family, man, do you want to get together with this family? Because this is the easiest year to be can't go to Aunt Josephine's or whatever. We're quarantining, this is the easiest year to get out of the dreaded family dinner. So if you really, really are getting together, I know you want to be there. I mean, there's probably a very small percentage of people that right now are listening and going, no, I still feel like I have to be. We all have a pretty big out. So don't waste this precious time on any of it, or make everyone's family's different, but make a joke out of it. If somebody slips up and mentions election day or inauguration day, right? Get your phone out and be I'm putting the timer on. 1 minute.
There you go. That's a good one.
You get 1 minute and then it's done.
I think 1 minute is a good time for that.
Yeah. If you have the board games out, use those timers, the sand is going.
And once it's done, you're this conversation is clean.
We are done. Clean.
It's finished.
So for all of those relationships, though, where there is an actual rift in the relationship, it got so bad that now family members really aren't talking to each other. It's tension every time you have a conversation. What do you suggest we do about those relationships?
Yeah, I just actually recently had a session with a couple 2 days ago, and they were saying that they're we're really to the point where we're not talking to my parents. They're avoiding our calls, and it's around politics. But I agree, it could be about anything, right? Everyone's got, way before 2020, there was conflict in families. So, I would say, first of all, you have to know, what is it that you want right now? What capacity do you have? Sometimes it's the right time to say, hey, we're going to get together on Wednesday. We haven't really been talking. We've been avoiding each other. Let's talk before Wednesday, right? That's one approach. In some cases that might be appropriate, but I would actually say in this case, the stress is so high right now. It's permeating everywhere. It might just be a little easier to acknowledge the rift. Hey, I know this has been a tough year for us and we're getting together. I just want you to know I'm so thrilled you're coming, and I really hope to be putting our differences aside. They'll get the gist. This isn't a deep conversation. I'm just putting it out there, exposing the elephant a little bit. But then there's some things you can do. I think that sometimes I don't know if you guys have ever experienced it, where there's a rift between two people, but you can leave it and go, you know what? We had a good day today. It didn't come up. The world's problems are not solved between us, but we were fine. And some things that help with that, number one tip would probably be to limit the alcohol that you're serving at your drinking.
That's a good idea.
That's a really good, again, duh, of course. Duh. My goodness.
Yeah. Because so let's say, whoever's coming over is the big red wine drinker or whatever. I mean, calculate the bottles. You're I'm going to offer 2 bottles of red and 2 bottles of white. You know what I mean? Whatever. Enough that they can't get plastered. Because truthfully, there is a ton of alcohol drinking that's been happening in 2020. And I think when there's stress between two people, especially, that's a lot of times their game plan. I'm going to walk in and grab that glass of wine right away just so I can be in their presence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So limit that. I mean, have it if that's what your family, is accustomed to having, but don't have a ton. Don't have a case of wine waiting for everybody or a whole bottle of whiskey or whatever it is, like that's a recipe for disaster. So I would say limit that. The other thing is when you already know there's existing tension between two people, know specifically what buttons they push for you. Know your buttons. You got to know your buttons, right? And I even slipped up, right? I knew my story, how I opened, that my button with my mom would be that she would have this gloating air about her, that it was like, I voted for Trump, waiting for a reaction from me. And so I knew it was my button. And like I said, I should have been able to manage it better. I didn't, but I did constrain it. But still, I got to know my buttons. There's lots of other buttons that I know I'm aware of. And when they get pushed, you have to have a strategy. What is going to be your strategy? Is it going to be humor? Is it going to be stepping away? Is it going to be taking a couple deep breaths? That's usually mine. Is it going to be make a joke out of it? Like, what are you going to do if your button or buttons are pushed? You got to have a plan. Don't go into this thinking it's just going to work out. Or a lot of people go into these things like, we're just going to get through the day. Like, that's awful.
Yeah, you need a plan, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
What if you're like, because I can so relate to that. I have specific buttons around certain people and I don't go in with a plan. And usually the buttons that are pushed for me are the same that's pushed for my husband. And so all that happens is awkward silence at the dinner table. And sometimes that's a good plan because you get the awkward silence and then you're like, okay, next topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that could be a plan. I mean, now that you're bringing it to your conscious awareness, you could say, you never thought about it as a plan, but you probably have casually said to your husband, if that topic comes up, I'm just not going to say anything.
Yeah. I mean, we have talked about it before and usually our tactic is just ignore it and move on to the next thing.
Totally. So that's a plan. That's what a plan means. It's nothing fancier than that. It's just, what am I going to do when this comes up?
Have a safety word between you and and another family member. Okay, when I say bananas, you're going to come in and start talking about, I don't care what, like your favorite movie from the 80s.
There was this one movie, Garden State, with Zach Braff and Natalie Portman, and she had the ear tug. When she did the ear tug, that was the sign to get out of there. Like, it's time to get out. And we did that for a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I use the kids a lot. I'll be like, if the kids are sitting at a kid table, I'm going to go see if they need any more food.
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
That's a really good one.
Mumble technique.
Yeah, the mumble, walk away when there's kids get into a fight. When they're like fighting in front of me, they're like, oh, there's something in the garage. Then I'm not there to be the audience to their huge fight. My son is playing a game right now on his computer where he's a thief and the cops are after him. So I'm so excited about this new app, Give As We Grow, where instead of being the quote unquote bad guys, kids are practicing giving back.
That is so cool, Joanne. I really wish that there was something like this when my kids were younger that got them excited about giving back to others and helped them build a better understanding of what it really means to volunteer.
Give As We Grow is the first of its kind free educational mobile app for children ages 8 to 11 that teaches kids via fun, service-focused minigame quests to tap into their unique talents and interests to help others.
And did you know that studies show that there is a biological connection between generosity and happiness, and that volunteering improves people's physical and mental health? I mean, kids who volunteer typically do better in school and are less likely to engage in risky behaviors. And that is something that I think we all want for our kids.
Ready to spark a new movement in generosity? Find and download Give As We Grow for free in the App Store for Android and iOS. And for resources for the whole family, visit giveaswegrow.org. This message is sponsored by Greenlight. It is so hard to raise kids who know how to manage money. Bree, right now, my kids are all about earning money for presents. My daughter wants to get presents for all of her friends, and my son is doing a Secret Santa with his friends.
Oh, I hear you. And if you're looking to raise kids that are financially responsible, we have got a lifesaver recommendation for you that you need to check out. It is Greenlight. Greenlight is a debit card and money app made for families that gives kids and teens an easy and fun way to gain financial literacy all while giving parents peace of mind.
You can send instant money transfers, automate allowance, and even keep an eye on kids' spending with real-time notifications. Meanwhile, your kids can begin their journey towards financial autonomy by learning how to save, invest, and spend wisely.
So sign up for Greenlight today and get your first month free when you go to greenlight.com/NGM.
That's greenlight.com/NGM to try Greenlight for free. Greenlight.com/NGM. But speaking of the kids, what happens, like we have these strained relationships with our loved ones, and we may not agree with everything our loved ones are saying. For instance, I bring up the mask science, and we don't want our kids exposed to that, or that not so much exposed, but we don't want our kids to start believing that as like science isn't real and masks don't work, and you're concerned about the safety. What do you do in those kind of relationships, especially among your kids? You can't just say, oh, like great grandma's totally wrong on that. Or can you?
Well, that's a really great question. That's one of those, I think that falls into the proactive category for me. I think if I were going to be surrounding myself with people who I thought might like literally not wear masks. I mean, my kids, it depends on the ages too. So my kids are 7, 10, and now 13. And so I am having a lot more mature conversations with them. So now they'll say, Mommy, did you see that guy? His mask was down here and his nose was totally open, and so it's like, I just kind of feel like what I've decided to do, maybe in the beginning, it felt like a little like, I don't know if this is a good idea or not, but it's really just point things out. I point things out, specific things for some reason for us that I point out because they're like kind of car issues, meaning like they see them in the car. We talk about them in the car is like people who jewel, who are vaping, right? At first, that was a topic that I just sort of like ignored. But you can't ignore it. Like if you're paying attention, there's just, at least here in Colorado, there's just people vaping everywhere, right? And it's such a huge plume of smoke. So now I just flat out, it was like I gave up the ignoring it, and I'm just like, so let me tell you what that is. Let me tell you how bad it is for you. Let me tell you what a poor decision they are. And they're highly addicted. And that's why they're still doing it. So now we'll be in the car and they'll be like, that person's vaping. We have a tall SUV too, so they feel like they can look everywhere. They're vaping. Those are teenagers in the car and they're vaping. And so then we just talk about it openly. And I don't like skirt the issue. I'm like, they are. Isn't that sad? They're either making a really bad choice or they're just so addicted they don't even feel like they can have a choice in the matter. Right. So it's a little bit of empathy, like what I put in there. So, grandma so-and-so who's going to refuse to wear a mask, or, uncle so-and-so is going to have the mask below his nose. I would probably proactively ahead of time say, this is new for all of us. And the way we're handling it is different. And some people just don't like to be told what to do. But in our family, I'm okay being told what to do. I'm okay listening to Dr. Fauci, or okay listening to your pediatrician who says that we need to wear a mask. And if you want to take a break from the mask, just go outside and take a break from it. So I wouldn't necessarily pick on anybody in particular. I would just make it a proactive conversation and say, which I always go back to, you cannot control other people. You can only control yourself. And so don't freak out and worry. Like my kids are funny, like going back to the first analogy, but like their pediatrician really hones in smoking around them. And their pediatrician literally says to them, since they're like 4 years old, if you see somebody with those yucky sticks in their mouth and they're blowing air, you stop, turn around and go to the other side of the street and walk away from them. She's
oh my goodness.
She's so funny. She says it every time, even at the 13-year-old. She says it every single time. Those yucky sticks in your mouth, that'll kill you. I mean, she's just like, and I'm cool with it. I just,
that's a fine thing to avoid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, there might not be people probably in our immediate family that smoke, but they see, if we go to a big football game or something, but we go somewhere in public, I mean, it's obviously people are smoking. And they look at me, right? Because our kids always look to us. And I say to them, we know better. That's what I say to them. So they'll look at me like, and I'll just say, we know better. That's all. Sometimes I say, and we're so lucky that we're educated. It's the other way I put it too. So now.
That's a good one too. Well, my kids, anytime the smoking happens, like they see somebody, they're like, Mom, they're smoking. And it's like, okay. Like,
It's a big
you
deal.
don't want to cause a scene. Like you don't want other, like, at least for me, I don't want that person to feel uncomfortable.
Right.
But at the same time, I am strongly against smoking.
Right.
So I like what you said about saying we know better and leave it at that.
Absolutely. And I don't want to demonize everyone, right? Because I'm sure there's smokers who are very good people. Some of them are addicted. Some of them might be dealing with a stressful situation. Some of them have just been doing it forever, whatever it might be. You know what I mean? And so it's not a choice that I make. It's not a choice, of course, I'd ever want my kids to make. But I also don't want them growing up feeling elitist. You know what I mean? Whether it's like mask wearing or not, or smoking or not. It's like, we just know better. We make our decisions based on health and safety and science. And sometimes people make decisions based on emotion, addiction, habit. That's the way that I talk to my kids, at least. And it doesn't come up as much with my clients, but with my own kids, that's the way we talk.
I'm going to change my tactic on that with my kids.
We know better.
The we know better, but also keeping that anti-elitist in mind and saying what we make our decisions based on and how other people might be making their decisions too.
Right.
I think it's a good thing to point out, and it shows them that, hey, they're not bad people. They're just using a different thing to make a decision. So you have shared so much great stuff with us, and we're so appreciative that you've taken the time again to come on and be on the No Guilt Mom podcast. So what do you have coming up that you're really excited about?
Oh, that's a really awesome question. Thank you for asking me, because I have a couple of exciting things going on, actually.
Ooh, okay. Ooh, tell us.
I do. The first thing that I have really exciting going on is that I am going to be working with a tech company to create a mental health platform for teenagers to try to address the huge gap, right? And the huge issues we're seeing in teenage mental health right now. And I couldn't be any more excited about it. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this dreamy idea of how do we help teenagers who, during especially this pandemic, but even before, we're in a mental health crisis. We're in a mental health epidemic. I'm sure you're seeing stats. Suicides are going up. Suicide attempts in ERs are so high right now.
That's crazy.
Depression, anxiety. So I am so excited about that. And I also have started writing book number 2.
Ooh.
And so I hope that we're getting close to figuring out who our publisher is going to be and then being full steam ahead in 2021 with that. So I feel really blessed. I really do. I feel, and I'm saying that only because I feel lately that I'm looking for good news. It's so easy to focus on bad news. And so, my positive spin on the mental health stuff that's happened is our clinic is busier than ever. I'm not happy about that, because obviously that means there's so many people in need. But I will tell you, my gratitude around that is that people are realizing the value of mental health like I have never seen before. Sometimes the intake is there's nothing even that big going on, but I know my kid's spending way too much time in their room. I think they're really lonely. They're not socializing. And I just want them to have an outlet. I want them to have some tools. Parents are evolving to that point where they're not waiting for a crisis. They're actually valuing it like the sniffles almost. You know what I mean? Like anything else that we see physically with our kids. So I feel really, really happy about that.
That is awesome. I like to hear that parents are taking this proactive approach when it comes to mental health.
That's exactly what I was thinking. They're trying to like you were just saying, with a cold, sniffles, we take our vitamins and we exercise, we do all those things to keep our physical health, and taking this proactive step of reaching out and being able to have a safe place for your kid to speak is amazing.
It's amazing.
Yay.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing with us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, I'm so excited to try some of these tips that she told us about in the interview.
Oh, I know. And again, my brain is still blown with the simplicity of a lot of her tips. Just talking about bringing back in games. The jar of questions sounds like so much fun. And you know what? In the jar of questions, that one could even be done virtually with Zoom. You could text each other random questions. That would be fun. You don't know who's going to Russian roulette with the text messages, who's going to get the next text message and what's it going to say.
Totally. Well, and something that you mentioned is that kind of thing would be top of mind normal Thanksgivings.
Right.
And then this Thanksgiving, I feel like our brains are so clouded with stress, especially if we have complicated relationships within our own families, that we're just trying to figure out how to make it through rather than trying to figure out how to make it as fun as possible.
Right. Like you just said, there's so much stress going on. I just feel like we're constantly in a state of stress. Every day, there's something new that I'm worried about. Everything from the world to my children. Every day, there's something new that anxiety is knocking on my door. And you're right. It's making my typical judgment, typical thought process of how to handle these situations a little bit cloudy.
And that's typical with anxiety too. I mean, when we had Dr. Michelle Borba on, she said about how when you have a lot of anxiety and stress, your empathy shuts down because you're basically in a survival mode.
Right.
You fail to recognize the emotions of other people and you fail to notice the good in the world because you are so stressed and focused inward.
Right.
So I think that's only normal when we're in this really stressful time to not know what we're doing.
Right. No, 100%. So I definitely feel a lot more ready for the upcoming holidays.
Yes, me too.
And I am so excited for some of Dr. Ziegler's new stuff that she has going on.
Oh, yeah.
Can't wait for the book
yes.
and the app. It sounds so awesome.
It does sound awesome. Well, if you have enjoyed this episode, hey, could you hit subscribe? And you'll get episodes like this delivered right to you as soon as they come out every Tuesday and Thursday. And if you have just a minute, if you could give us a review.
Yes, if you enjoyed it, we would love to hear about it, either by stars or by you writing a couple lines about what you think.
Yes, because when you give your review, that tells like the Apple iTunes gods to show this podcast and share it with more people. And we would love to get it into as many mamas' hands as possible. So if you enjoyed it, we would love to hear your review. And if you didn't enjoy it, let us know what we can improve. Hello at noguiltmom.com.
Yes, and if you have any guests, anybody that you would love to hear us bring on to the lovely No Guilt Mom podcast, by all means, email us at hello@noguiltmom. Let us know who you're thinking of. We would love to try to reach out. Are you looking for something to listen to with your whole family? Then check out 6 Minutes, produced and created by Gen Z Media. With over 200 twisty, cliffhanger-filled episodes, 6 Minutes tells the story of 11-year-old Holiday, who is pulled from the icy waters with no memory of who she is or where she came from.
3 years ago, Brinley Pasternak helped the Anders family uncover the truth about Holiday's past. Now she'll need them to help her find the truth about hers. In 6 Minutes Out of Time, the long-awaited sequel, Cyrus Anders is found unconscious near the mysterious Elixir Academy in Florida, and Brinley learns the school may have a shocking connection to her missing mother.
Dive in now and get the most downloaded family audio adventure in history. Follow 6 Minutes wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen early and ad-free with the GZM family subscription.